I remember that night so clearly, even though many winters have passed since then. The wind rattled the windows of my old wooden house, and the fire burned low in the fireplace. My granddaughter Lily sat on the rug, her big brown eyes fixed on me, waiting for me to speak. She had asked me a question that pierced deeper than she knew. "Grandma," she whispered, "why do you sometimes cry when you sit alone?" Her words froze the air around me. For a moment, I did not answer. Instead, I stared at the flames, watching them dance like memories I had long tried to bury. Therefore, I decided she was old enough to know. And more importantly, she deserved to know, because silence can turn into poison if carried too long. "Come closer, child," I said softly. She crawled onto the couch beside me, wrapping herself in the faded quilt I had stitched from scraps of her mother's old dresses. I touched her hand, my skin thin and wrinkled against her warm, smooth fingers. "You see, Lily," I began, "every tear I shed has a story. And sometimes, the stories are heavier than the tears themselves." I took a deep breath, letting the memories wash over me like a tide. "Many years ago, before you were even born, our family had a house. A house built not of bricks and wood, but of dreams and sacrifices. I worked my hands raw, day and night, cleaning other people's homes, sewing clothes for neighbors, taking any job that would help put food on the table. Your mother, my sweet Emily, she grew up in that house. Every corner of it held laughter, fights, and the heartbeat of our lives. It was small, but it was ours." Lily's eyes widened. "Was it the white house on Maple Street? The one we drive by sometimes?" I nodded slowly. "Yes. That house. I planted roses by the fence. Your mother used to run barefoot through the yard. It was not grand, but it carried the smell of soup on Sundays and the sound of lullabies at night. But sometimes, child, the things we love most are the things we lose fastest." I paused, swallowing hard. The fire crackled like the echo of footsteps long gone. One day, Emily brought home a man. His name was David. He had charm, he had ambition, and he knew how to make her laugh. I wanted to trust him. I wanted to believe he would care for her the way I had. "But," I said, my voice tightening, "a mother can see things others cannot." His eyes never met mine for long. His hands were quick with money, slow with work. And his smile, it was a mask, not a truth. Lily tilted her head. "But Mama loved him, didn't she?" "Oh yes," I whispered. "She loved him with her whole heart. And that is where the tragedy began. Because love is strong, but when it is blind, it can destroy more than it builds." I leaned closer, lowering my voice as if telling her a secret meant only for the two of us. One winter, when times were hard, David told Emily they should sell the house. He said it would give them a fresh start. He said the money would bring freedom, joy, and success. Emily fought at first, because she knew how much that house meant to me. But his words were smooth, and his promises were sweet. Therefore, she gave in. She sold the only home we had, and handed him every dollar. 500,000. Lily gasped. $500,000. I nodded, my lips trembling. Yes. 500,000. Years of sacrifice, years of my sweat and prayers, gone. Just like that. He said it would build them a new life. But instead, it built his selfish dreams. He wasted it on business schemes, on gambling, on nights that did not include her. The fire hissed, as if spitting at his name. Your mother cried, Lily. She cried in my arms, ashamed and broken. She thought she had ruined everything. But I held her and told her, no house, no money, no man can erase your worth. We will survive, because that is what we do. Tears blurred my eyes, but I did not stop speaking. Emily tried to rebuild, but the damage was deep. David's greed was bottomless. He dragged her through years of debt, lies, and betrayal. And though she stayed strong, though she fought for her children, her heart began to wither under the weight of it all. Lily squeezed my hand. "Grandma, is that why Mama is gone?" I closed my eyes. The silence pressed down on me like the weight of the snow outside. "Yes, child. That is why." Her body grew tired, but her spirit broke first. She gave everything, and he gave nothing. And when she died, he didn't even weep. The words cut through the room like shards of glass. Lily's lip trembled. "I hate him," she whispered. I shook my head gently. "No, child. Hate is heavy. It poisons the heart of the one who carries it. But justice is different. Justice comes when you least expect it, and it always arrives to those who wait." I leaned back in my chair, staring at the fire, as if it could burn away the years of silence. "Therefore, Lily, you must know, the story is not over. My tears are not only for the past, but for what is yet to come. Because one day, the same hands that destroyed will tremble. And the same lips that mocked will beg. And when that day comes, it will not be hate that answers him, it will be truth." The wind howled outside, pressing against the windows like an impatient visitor. Lily curled against me, her small body trembling, not from fear, but from the weight of the story. I kissed the top of her head and whispered, "Remember this night, child. Because it is the beginning of the ending." And with that, I let the fire burn lower, the room swallowed by shadows, the suspense of my tale hanging in the silence like a storm waiting to break. The fire burned lower that night, but Lily's eyes stayed wide, her little hand clinging to mine as if she feared I might disappear with my words. I could feel her heart beating fast, and I knew she was carrying the weight of my story inside her. Therefore, I could not stop there. A story half told is like a wound left open, it festers in silence. I had to continue, even though every memory tasted of ash. "After your mother sold the house," I whispered, "everything changed." At first, she believed David's promises. He told her they would buy a bigger home, one with tall ceilings and wide windows. He said he would invest the money, that it would grow, and they would never worry again. She wanted to believe him. And because she loved him, she trusted him. But love, child, is not always enough to keep the wolves away. I paused, staring at the flickering firelight dancing against the walls. David began spending the money faster than he could count it. He invested in businesses that were nothing but air. He drank away the nights, played cards with men who had no souls, and chased pleasures that never came home to his wife. Your mother tried to stop him, but every time she spoke, he grew colder. And then, crueler. Lily's little face twisted in confusion. "Crueler how, Grandma?" My lips trembled. I had shielded her from the darker parts of the truth for so long. But she asked, and she deserved an answer. "He used words, child. Words like knives. He told your mother she was stupid. He told her she was lucky he had married her. And when her eyes filled with tears, he laughed. Sometimes, the sharpest wounds are not from fists, but from tongues." The fire cracked sharply, as if agreeing with me. "Emily tried to come back to me," I said softly. "She begged him to move in with me for a while, so they could save. But he said, no. We don't need your mother's pity." He kept her away, even when she needed me most. And when she grew sick, he still would not bring her home. He wanted privacy, he said. He wanted his freedom. Therefore, I could only stand outside the glass, watching my daughter fade behind closed doors. Lily's eyes shone with tears. "Grandma, didn't anyone help Mama?" I shook my head slowly. People turned away. Some said it was not their place. Others feared his temper. And Emily, she protected him. Even when he destroyed her, she told the world he was a good man. That is the tragedy of love, Lily. Sometimes, it makes us shield the very person who breaks us. The room fell quiet. The old clock ticked on the wall, each second a reminder of time stolen. But, I continued, my voice hardening, a mother cannot watch her child suffer without carrying some of that pain herself. So I worked harder. I took extra jobs. I sent money secretly, tucked inside envelopes, hoping it would buy her medicines, hoping it would bring her a little peace. And every dollar I sent, David used for himself. He never thanked me. He never even looked me in the eye. I clenched the quilt in my hands, the anger I had buried for years simmering just beneath my skin. Then, one night, I received a call. Emily was gone. My daughter, my only child, taken from me before her time. She had given everything, her youth, her home, her money, her health, to a man who did not deserve the dirt under her shoes. And when I stood at her funeral, David stood too, but not a single tear fell from his eyes. He only whispered to one of his friends, she was too weak. Lily gasped, covering her mouth. I nodded. Yes, child. That is what he said. And in that moment, as I stood by her grave, something inside me broke. But another thing awakened. I promised Emily, silently, that her sacrifices would not be forgotten. That her pain would not be wasted. That justice, though slow, would one day arrive. The fire popped loudly, as though sealing my vow in sparks. After she was gone, I said, my voice quieter now, David turned colder to me. He mocked me, laughed at my age, called me useless. He said I had nothing, and he had everything. He told me once at Christmas dinner, right in front of others, you're the most useless woman alive. And they laughed with him. My heart cracked that night. But I did not cry in front of them. No, I saved my tears for the silence of my own bed. Lily squeezed my hand tight. Grandma, did you hate him then? I looked down at her, my eyes burning. No, Lily. Hate is easy. Hate burns fast and leaves nothing but ashes. But patience grows roots. I waited. I watched. I built myself slowly, quietly. I worked, I saved, I invested every coin wisely. Therefore, while he wasted, I built. While he mocked, I planned. While he drank, I prayed. And one day, though he did not know it, I began preparing for the day the tables would turn. The fire had burned low now, casting only a dim glow on our faces. The shadows in the room grew long, like the shadows of my past stretching across the years. I leaned close to Lily and whispered, remember, child, silence is not weakness. Tears are not defeat. Sometimes, survival is the sharpest weapon of all. And sometimes, the ones who laugh today, will beg tomorrow. Her eyes glistened as she nodded slowly, pressing her head against my shoulder. I closed my eyes, hearing the storm outside, and in my heart, I felt the weight of the story still unfinished. The end had not yet come. But it was near. And when it came, it would carry both revenge and a lesson no one would ever forget. The storm outside raged harder that night, but Lily stayed wide awake, her eyes fixed on me. She had heard the pain, the loss, and the sacrifices of my past. But now she leaned forward, as though her heart already knew that the ending was different, that after the ashes, there had to be fire again. I took a deep breath and said, Lily, people like David believe they can take forever. They believe age makes us weak, and silence makes us blind. But what they forget is that time also builds strength. Time is the soil where seeds of justice grow. Her little hand gripped mine tighter. After your mother was gone, I was left with nothing but grief, I continued. But grief is a strange companion. It teaches you patience, and it sharpens your vision. Therefore, while David spent the last of his stolen money, while he surrounded himself with shallow friends, I was working quietly. I took small jobs, saved every penny, and taught myself how to invest wisely. At first, it was little, a grocery store stock here, a small business bond there. But slowly, like a river carving stone, it grew. And after years, I had built a fortune. Lily's mouth fell open. You got rich, Grandma. I smiled faintly. Yes, child. But not for myself. I had no hunger for diamonds or big cars. I wanted only security, peace, and justice. Therefore, I never spoke of it. I lived simply, wearing the same coat, eating plain bread, letting the world believe I was still the poor, helpless old woman they mocked. I leaned closer, my voice turning sharp. And that was my greatest weapon. They never saw me coming. The fire hissed in the stove, as though it, too, knew the taste of vengeance. Years later, I whispered, David came back into my life. His money was gone. His friends had vanished. His pride had withered into desperation. And one evening, when I least expected, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to see him standing there, thinner, older, with eyes that no longer carried smugness, but shame. I could still picture the scene vividly, his trembling hands, his forced smile. He said, Mother, I've missed you. I need family now. He pretended to care, Lily. But I saw through him. I saw the wolf in a broken coat. He did not come for love. He came because he thought I was still poor, and would cling to me for shelter. What he did not know was the truth, that I now owned more than he could ever imagine. Lily's eyes shone with a mixture of awe and anger. What did you do, Grandma? I let out a long breath. I welcomed him in. I gave him food, let him sit by my fire. But I said nothing of my wealth. Instead, I asked about his life. And oh, he spoke lies. He said he had been unlucky. He said he had tried so hard. He blamed the world, never himself. And then, he finally said what I had expected all along, Mother, can you help me with some money? The room grew silent. Only the ticking clock filled the pause. I looked Lily in the eyes. I leaned across the table, and I told him, do you remember, David, that Christmas when you called me the most useless woman alive? Do you remember when you laughed while your wife withered in front of you? Do you remember when you said I had nothing? Well, today, I have everything. And you have nothing. Lily gasped, covering her mouth with her hands. Yes, child, I whispered. For the first time in my life, I watched his face crumble. The arrogance drained out of him. His pride collapsed. He realized the truth, the woman he mocked, the mother he abandoned, was now stronger than he had ever been. And I told him one more thing, something I want you never to forget. This is not revenge, David. This is justice. A man reaps what he sows. And you sowed nothing but cruelty. The fire spat a spark, as though sealing my words into the air. I leaned back, my voice soft now. I did not give him $1. I sent him away with empty hands, just as he had left me years ago. And I felt no shame. Because, Lily, sometimes mercy teaches nothing. But justice leaves a mark. Her small face was wet with tears, but her eyes glowed with pride. She whispered, Grandma, you're not useless. You're the strongest person I know. I kissed the top of her head, holding her close against my heart. And as the storm raged outside, I finally felt the storm within me grow quiet. The circle had closed. The wounds had spoken. The lesson was sealed. Never mistake silence for weakness. Never mistake kindness for blindness. And never forget, the seeds you plant in this life will one day rise to greet you. That was the end of my story. But for Lily, it was the beginning of her strength.